All right, we're here with Joe Poeschl. The hardest word to say early in the morning. Joe, what's going on?
Hey Zach, it's not that hard when you start to use the mnemonic device Peschel. It's like special without the S.
Yeah, I
And
should
then,
have asked how to do that in the beginning, but Poeschl
yeah,
it is, and I'm not going to mess it up today. So you are involved with the Commons in Wisconsin. Cool name. What is the Commons?
so the Commons is a big collaboration. It is 24 colleges and universities in southeast Wisconsin, several dozen of our large corporations in the area, as well as small businesses, medium-sized businesses, community organizations, economic development organizations, an entrepreneurial community, and a ton of college students. So what we do is we smash all those people together, and we get them to do stuff. And we've been doing that now for about nearly 3 years, which is pretty wild to think about. Um, yeah, it emerged in a really interesting way, and I'm excited to share more of that story with you.
Yeah, so 3 years old. I always believe that when you get to the 3 year mark, that's where you're really going to see huge strides. So, congrats on getting there. 25 colleges, that seems like a difficult thing to get even two of them to work together. How did you guys kind of start getting the colleges to work together and then all these other parts as well?
Yeah, so that was actually our first step in really pitching this idea and getting people to buy into it. We held an academic leadership summit back in the fall of 2014, and we kind of struck while there was. I'm going to mix up all my idioms now. The stars aligned, and we captured the lightning or something like that. Whatever those are. What we did is there was this movement of the chancellor from University of Wisconsin Milwaukee left that position to become the president of Marquette. So in the Milwaukee area, we had a direct connection between people of the two largest universities in the area in terms of students enrolled. And his name is Dr. Michael Lovell. And Lovell, one of his core missions is innovation entrepreneurship and really pushing that. He actually comes from an engineering background and really wants to push students and education into those directions. His number two at UWM, his name is Michael Hosted. He became the executive director at Innovation in Milwaukee, which is a local group that was dedicated to working with the corporations in town that have innovation as one of their core missions. And I am one of the co-founders of Startup Milwaukee, a local organization that is dedicated to helping the entrepreneurial community get connected to one another, strengthen the ecosystem, and learn some things along the way. So we had the entrepreneurial community, the corporate community, and then the academic community kind of ready to have a conversation. So we worked with Mike Lovell to send out an invitation to all of his counterparts across the region. So we sent out an invite to all the other chancellors and presidents of these schools, asking them to come together for really the first time that they had ever done that, come together and have a conversation about entrepreneurship, innovation, student experience, talent development, talent retention, and how that all kind of rolls up into opportunity. So we held that, and we were hoping for about we sent out I think 21 invitations to these 21 different schools, and we're hoping to get about 10 or 12 of them to show up for this conversation. Instead, we had 19 of them. Sorry, we had 20 of them of the 21 come to this event, and it blew us away. I believe I sweat through an entire suit. I was pretty nervous in that. I'd never been at such a large boardroom table. And we pitched them this concept. Wisconsin has not been doing the best in some of these rankings. So Kaufman puts us at number 50 in the country for entrepreneurial activity, and
The state.
several the states, yes. Yeah, So I take personal offense to that, right? But the opportunistic person in me says that there's only one way to go, and you better believe if we're ranked 49 next year, that we'll take some credit for it.
So wait, you guys, Wisconsin is the worst state from a business entrepreneurship standpoint, according to the Kauffman. Is it the Startup Index?
Yeah, entrepreneurial activity, which there's a number of factors that feed into that. Probably investment dollars, number of businesses created, lifespan, those sort of things. Honestly, I haven't even looked into it that much. I'm not much of a rankings type person, but it's out there and it's a headline and it hits the newspapers and people want to talk about it. But that presents again opportunity to light a fire under people's butts and do something big, and that's kind of what we did in this academic leadership summit. We said, here's our rankings, here's how we're doing things individually, and it's great to see entrepreneurship programs and competitions and such coming online on our campuses, but we have a hypothesis that we can do something pretty big at the regional level, and we can engage students that are ready to make new professional connections, ready to explore this mindset, ready to do some high impact and very real world work and get connected directly into our economic system. And we asked for a show of hands, and we had 19 of those schools say, yep, we're all in. And so we bit off more than we could chew, and had gave ourselves, I think, a 2-month timeline to put together our pilot program, and had 143 students from 19 of these different schools show up for the pilot of our program.
What was the ask to the 19 or 20, the school chancellors or presidents? What was the ask?
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. There was no cost to them. It was purely just getting us connected to some professors or academic advisors or internship directors that could help refer students into the program, and generally just help us spread the word that it was going to go on, and that it would be an interesting opportunity for them, for the students. So that was a pretty easy ask to make, and doesn't take too much effort to raise your hand after hearing that one, but that allowed us to really play. When you talk about collaboration and building community, there has to be some sort of mutually beneficial thing to all of this. And for the schools, and this is 24 different schools in the area. It's all of the 2-year, 4-year public-private institutions, the technical colleges, the medical college. Why were they all saying yes? It's because, and all of them had different levels of programming and education, learning opportunities for their students on campus. But the ones, the schools that did not have any sort of entrepreneurship program, this was an outlet for their students. They were pushing it in their business courses. They were pushing it in their engineering courses and their design courses, saying, this is a great opportunity for you. We don't have that type of class offering for you, so this is a substitute or a real complement to it. And then those schools that do have very robust entrepreneurship programming, we were worried that was going to seem like a competitive element, when in fact it was incredibly complementary. They had students that were going through all of those classes and taking advantage of all those resources that were on campus and winning the business plan competitions and such. They viewed us as that next step, and they're very literally stepping up and going into the regionals, like playing at that level. And then there was those students that are kind of the curious entrepreneur. They appreciate the problem solving process, and they understand that it's going to be something important for them to bring into their career pursuits. And they see it as a great place to experiment with that and meet new people, like-minded individuals. We have over 300 local professionals in our mentor network, so they're tapping into that. They're getting connected. They're finding their next step into a cool career, be it a job or an internship, really getting a sense and a lay of the land for what's going on. So this was adding momentum to all of the individual schools in a way that they didn't have to create a new thing. They weren't feeling like there was that competitive element. They're all being able to tap into a third-party kind of neutral territory, and that's where we found a really nice sweet spot. And it doesn't hurt that we were able to tap into this corporate community and the entrepreneurial community. These are relationships that it takes it takes a lot of effort to grow and cultivate and strengthen. And we were able to like just kind of directly connect these universities into that. And so when you talk about collaboration, you have to talk about mutually beneficial relationships, and we were able to navigate those worlds really effectively and pretty quickly if we're thinking about how large some of those institutions are.
So how do you define a mutually beneficial relationship in that case?
Yeah, well, I mean, the schools were able to offer a very unique experience to their students that only enhances their pride in going to that school. Their offerings were complemented. Their students were picking up all the technical skills in the classroom, and we were giving them a real world application, something of incredibly high impact and opportunity, and then connecting them into the community very very directly and with a lot of attention. Our corporate partners, they're able to, eyes and ears on the talent. They're using our program and the experience that we've refined and crafted now. They're using that as professional development for their emerging leaders within their organizations.
So those corporate companies were recognizing that, hey, we're struggling finding the best talent, and this is something that's a challenge, and you could put them through some sort of internship, apprenticeship, programming that you're calling the Commons, and then because those 25 schools are there, they have an opportunity to look at the next top talent because they've been working with them anyway.
Yeah. So it's direct access into the most talented and motivated students out of these schools, regardless of what their resumes might suggest. So, I mean, the program itself, you got to apply to get into it. It's free for students, but it's pretty unique because we're not asking questions like, what's your GPA? What major are you? What year are you in school? We're asking about what motivates them, why they want to do this pretty difficult thing. They're joining us every Tuesday night for 9 weeks to go through this process. They're working on cross-disciplinary teams, exploring new entrepreneurial startup creation or corporate innovation, kind of product development. And it's not easy, and they have to dedicate time and attention to it. And for many students, it sits on top of a full class schedule, full-time work, a lot of extracurriculars. And we've been able to now like really refine the program and develop learning outcomes and assessment methodology to prove that there is learning occurring. And it's gotten to the point where 18 of the 24 academic partners are offering credit for the program in terms of internship or independent study or practicum sort of credits. So we've been able to offer that type of value for our academic partners as well. They don't have to find another professor to teach this type of class or even turn the lights on and find a space for it. We kind of exist outside of that system and can offer that value to them.
It's interesting that your application process doesn't ask your normal demographic questions, if you will. I actually think that those things are going the wayside, not just in applications, but when you're a business trying to find target customers, it's like, look, like it doesn't matter your age, sex, and location anymore. It matters like who you are, why you want to do it, where you're doing those things. Like, are you doing it at a bar? Like, can you like where can you work? And it's interesting because I just think that forever our world has said this is what matters.
Yes.
Your GPA in high school, your GPA in college, when it's like maybe not. And so I think it's great that you guys are doing that. So you do cohorts, is basically you bring them in for nine weeks.
Yep. Yeah. So we do a fall and spring program every year. We bring through about 75 students for each of those classes. We just finished up our 5th cohort this past spring, and that put us at about 425 students going through the program. We've for the total now, like cumulative. So this coming fall, we'll hit the 500 mark, which is pretty exciting. But that's so. I'll kind of transition into like that's where it is right now, and where it's going is top of mind and been really exciting lately. So most people, when they hear the what the program is and the return on investment that we're getting with it, we're really changing perception for students. They're learning a lot, but the key success metrics for us are the network connections that they are making. Over 90% of the students that go through feel like they've made that critical connection that is their first step into an internship or job and that better understanding of their career path. So that's really big. And then the bigger one for us is that 81% are more likely to seek a job in Wisconsin after going through. So at the core of it, this is talent retention. It is mixing cool people together to do cool work, and we do it in a cool place. And then they're looking here. They now have a better understanding of the opportunity in front of them, and the actual things that are going on in this region. So with all of that, with that return on our investment, we have started to now deepen the pipeline where we are working with about 30 local high schools to engage those students, to show them college pathways, to show them career pathways, and kind of help them level up. Most people, when they think about scaling the program, they want us to take that fall and spring 75 student cohort thing and do 2 of them at once, or do 10 of them at once, and take through 150 students instead of 75 and whatever. But we actually want to see that tighten up and become a real key point where we don't expand that. That just becomes a higher quality and something that students level up into. Whereas we look at everything before that in the pipeline of programming leading up to that and offer more workshops, more speaker series, more boot camps, more opportunities for students to dip their toe into the pool and see if they want to pursue this sort of entrepreneurial engineering or design or marketing or project management or what have you. So we start to offer more programming ahead of that. And then we have this core program that they go through in one of our semesters. And then after it, what do we do with them? And offer, even more selective process to take students and accelerate them even further. So what we end up seeing is basically a fire hose put through a pressure washer nozzle. And we get this really great momentum builder. And we see a narrative emerge with all of this where we might have that high school student that is a junior, and they're thinking about getting into electrical engineering. And they might engage with us in a project in their high school classroom that offers them this unique real world challenge that is directly tied to a local business. And they get to engage with some of the mentors that are in our mentor network. They might engage with a couple of our workshops that we offer. And they might now see, hey, I can actually, because I participated in one of these Commons projects while I was in high school, and the Commons has this great network of colleges in this region. They've agreed to offer a small scholarship or a credit-bearing sort of opportunity because I went through this. And I'm going to actually choose one of those colleges. I met somebody that it's been on my radar, and I'm going to choose to go into that college. Then go into that school and engage with us further. A couple more workshops. They get into one of our fall or spring programs. They become one of our innovation fellows afterwards, and they get a great career locally. And then they join our mentor network, and you see this whole system develop out of that. So it's like a 6 or 7 year narrative. But we're seeing it emerge, and the longitudinal study is a very interesting one to think about and what that does for our region. There is, when you start to really get into like the whole psychology of it and culture, it's a little bit of a risk aversion type thing in our region, in our state. And so you don't have as many people that you might see on the coast, for example, taking that plunge and saying, I'm going to start a company. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to quit my job with the benefits and all those sorts of things and go all out on this. So we have this slight risk aversion. I actually don't see that as a negative for us. Rather, I see it as a real opportunity because we might be more risk averse, but maybe we're more practical in our problem solving approach. And if we can take that and kind of flip the story around a little bit, and we give these students that are going through our program some of these mindsets, some of these skills to more effectively problem solve and take that innovation and entrepreneurial mindset and take it with them into work, into a career, we might now see 10 years down the road more people starting a company because they understand the process. They're better practical problem solvers, and they can see that it's not taking a risk. It's actually more risky to not go out and solve this problem that they see in front of them that has real benefit to people and is a real revenue driver and can become a very real company in a short amount of time. So that's all to say, we're pretty excited about how this, as a longer term study, becomes something of significant impact to our economy in this region.
Well, and I think as you're talking about risk and problem solving, I think as a country we've really just been throwing business models out the door and saying what sticks, and I think oftentimes a lot of people aren't actually solving a problem, or they're solving a problem that actually isn't the actual core problem. And so
yes.
the example I like to give is people I don't have enough time to do this. And then I go, well, for the next 7 days, simply take an inventory of everything that you do. And then you start to look, and it's 15 hours on Netflix, 40 hours on Facebook, working for 2 hours. And you're it's not a time issue. You're a lazy issue, or you don't want to do it issue. And so stop saying that time is the issue, and instead recognize that it's something different and actually solve that problem. And
yeah.
it's I'm okay with someone getting on Netflix or being on Facebook and doing those things, but don't use the excuse as time that you don't have it.
Yes.
So your background is what?
Personally, my background, I got a degree in advertising and design, and I was going to go into advertising, be an art director, and do all that stuff. I went into my first job interview at a nice tall building downtown Chicago, and met the copywriter I would be working with, and saw the account that I would be working on, and I was like, oh, I kind of screwed up there. What I thought was going to be the thing was not the thing, and went downstairs into a Starbucks, and I met the co-founder of my startup that I would start later that afternoon. We became a web design and development studio that specifically built web products for non-technical entrepreneurs. So we were very much in the web startup world, but we were kind of that CTO team for hire. Over the course of about 5.5 years, helped do all of the user experience design, business strategy, a lot of sales for the company, all that sort of stuff, and built about 35 web startups across the country, helped them raise some money, build their team, all that sort of stuff. So that's where I got my degree in entrepreneurship. And during that time, I helped co-found Startup Milwaukee. Because I was a little bit tired of making that drive down to Chicago to do all of the networking and sales stuff. I wanted to see a little bit more of that in the city that I was living in. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background.
I have a very similar story.
Yeah.
Got a journalism degree. Did that for a little bit, hated it. Then worked at a web startup, grew that. Saw that this world started something called Start Norfolk and what ultimately ended up becoming Hatch, and because I wasn't seeing it myself. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I'll just build it. I want to be around other people, and so it's always cool to meet people that are similar, and it's like, oh, you know what we went through, and it's cool that you were able to connect schools, because I don't think our region has been able to do that yet, and so it's cool that you guys were able to see success in that so far.
Yeah, we want to help blaze that trail and become a model for academic collaboration, as it only benefits students. At the core of our program is about delivering a fantastic student experience. And sometimes when that type of thing emerges out of a single institution, be it a corporation or one university, sometimes it might forget a little bit about the student experience. And we zero in on it 100%. We found that it really then benefits everybody else that is involved.
The one or two schools that said no, have they come on now?
Yes, they have. It was purely show us what you can do, and then we're all in because we're not sure this is very new, that sort of thing. But they are now some of our largest supporters to the point where they're putting it into their degrees that they're offering, which is very cool. So like junior year, you see the commons in the curriculum of their degree program.
So how does the business model work? So you guys are getting paid from each school and each business, and maybe some other community leaders to pay you some sort of fee, and then you get access to their students and you teach them and you go from there, and then that's how you run the programming.
That's pretty accurate, yeah. So it's not a pay-to-play model for our academic partners. However, like I mentioned earlier, 18 of them are offering credit. They're driving revenue off of our program. So many of them are putting in an in-kind donation to help us keep the lights on and deliver more programming. And we do a whole ton of pop-up workshops in classrooms. We're always visiting. We're always on campus. We do a whole roadshow sort of thing. So it's about just getting out there and helping deliver good content and getting the word out. And then a lot of our revenue for the program comes in from our corporate partners and hiring partners. Again, that eyes and ears on the talent, being able to post jobs. We do special programming for a lot of them, run a number of hackathons and that other programming that leads into that 9-week thing that we do. And then local entrepreneurs that see the value in what this is creating, as well as grants, foundations, and philanthropic donors. That's another component for our revenue and sustainability. And it's a nonprofit organization, but we've created a number of different revenue streams and a business model that is meant to be self-sustaining and scalable.
Which is good because most people don't, right? Most nonprofits fail because they get a grant once and can't create that business model off of it. It's a real big challenge though because those people are doing such a really good thing, yet they go under because they weren't able to figure out how to make money. A business is still a business, whether they are a for-profit or a nonprofit or a benefit corporation. They have to figure out how to make money, and if they don't, they go under, and ultimately that's not a good thing.
No, nonprofit is a tax code. It's not an excuse to not have a business model. So we do not, we've been very careful in figuring out how we measure our own success. A lot of entrepreneurial programs will measure their success by how many companies are started, investment dollars raised, those sorts of things. We know that's not going to be good for us. Entrepreneurship innovation is a fantastic vehicle for the student experience, but students don't have the industry expertise. They don't have the time spent on a job to be identifying certain problems, the resources, the network required for running a successful business. So we use it as an experiment or a vehicle for the experience. Now we do have a number of students that do really find that nice niche, and they're starting a company and they're getting in some investment dollars and they're building product. And then on the flip side, how many students can we get placed into jobs and internships and such? Because the program is so open, we will have freshmen coming through, we'll have seniors coming through, we'll have graduate students, PhDs, returning students that are working but receiving a new credential, new degree, advancing in an MBA program. So if we go by percentages and raw numbers, we start to see that the pool of people that can be hired or can get into an internship actually starts to shrink. And so we're really careful that we don't want to do that. So anecdotally, we see a ton of them get hired and get into jobs and internships because of this experience. It's even to the point where our hiring partners, our corporate partners, if they see the commons on a resume, it's an automatic interview. Because they know that that person has a story. They know that that person went into something not knowing what they were going to have to do. Total ambiguity. Well, can't say that word right now. Ambiguity. There it is. Thank you. That is. Yes. Yeah, so they know that they have experienced something and went above and beyond the call of duty as a student to raise their hand and say, I want something new. I want to set myself apart. That is worth an interview. That is at least worth that much.
I really appreciate it, though. All too often these companies, they're tracking vanity metrics. I recently was talking with an accelerator, and I was like, why is the number that you track that's so important talking about um, talking about money raised, not about revenues made? And so all too often, these companies are just talking about vanity metrics, and it doesn't matter how much money you raise. It should be, how much profit are you making, how much revenue are you making off of that. And so I appreciate that you guys are focusing on actually figuring out metrics that are important to you and that you can actually get real data from, not just some vanity metric.
Yeah, yeah. Whole like output versus outcomes sort of thing. Like what actually means anything to the program. Yeah.
We're talking with Joe Poeschl of the Commons in Wisconsin. You can check them out at thecommonswi.com. Joe, is there anything else for people that are listening that you would want them to know about the Commons?
Yeah, I think the only like really big thing that we're very excited about right now is we talked about growing the program down into high schools, but we're also now growing the program geographically. So we developed kind of a hub and spoke model that is strategically looking like a large network play for I feel it can be the entire state and even beyond that. To say that we know how to do academic collaboration and an entrepreneurial kind of network innovation network sort of play across the state. And we've developed the blueprint, the people that are required to be at the table and have this really nice, clear picture on how to execute on that. So I can't wait to plant that flag in Wisconsin and say that like we do this very, very well. And we'll see if that changes any of those rankings that I. Yeah.
Well, you can only go up, unless, of course, they're counting Puerto Rico. Joe, I appreciate your time today. It's really fascinating that you guys are finding that this little local thing that you're building maybe can grow across state boundaries or even to get to the rest of the state. So I appreciate that you're doing that. We're obviously seeing that ourselves with 1004. So I appreciate your time and best of luck, guys. Check out Joe Poeschl and The Commons at thecommonswi.com. See you soon, Joe.
Thank you, Zach. Take care.